Well, you're listening to the Vital Moments podcast. My name is David. I'm joined by Ron Baker, and we got to say right off the hop, Happy New Year to everyone. This is our first podcast of the new year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. We took a bit of a pause.
Which was nice.
Yeah, we didn't do a Vital Moments for Christmas, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Christmas, shmish. No, it was such a great time at Christmas across Vitalpoint Church. How many people do we have that
We
partook
think
in the
it was
service?
about 980 people in total.
Man, seven services,
3 sites.
3 locations. Man,
We needed a month to recover.
It feels like we have taken a month off. We took last week off, and
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of took off. Yeah, you got away for a little bit. I got to spend time at home with the girls, and
Yeah.
man, it was such a great ending of the year of 2022, where we talked about a lot. The theme of last year was abundantly more,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
saw God do crazy things with 22 baptisms, spaces opening up for our rental sites, launching churches, new people, team members. It literally is the theme of abundantly more.
Think about the student ministry in Poplar Hill. I mean,
Student ministry, like 60 kids almost.
yeah.
Like we started with 2 a few years ago.
Yeah.
And now, right before COVID, and now we're at 60 something. Exeter's got about maybe 15 kids. And then Clinton's starting soon. But man, yeah, 2022 is a year of abundantly more. I'm going to remember 2022 for a very long time, I think.
Oh man, no kidding.
New vision statement for the next 5 years. Like it's just wild, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's very true, David. And I think I think what we need to remember about 2022 is that all the glory goes to God. I mean, we worked so hard. We were diligent in our obedience, and we were very purposeful and following the Spirit's leading. And we worked hard, and we recognize that we have a role to play, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's, what God's doing. And for whatever reason, in his divine purposes, obviously he's got his using Vitalpoint strategically right now in this time in history. And
I think about this, and this is where we're going to get into our theme. So we're wrapping up this past Sunday, January 1, boldly dependent, right?
Yeah,
you're wearing the sweater. If you're watching on YouTube,
sweater, yeah.
People probably sign on and are like, what's this sweater supposed to mean? And then all of a sudden you drop the hammer on our theme of the year will be boldly dependent. But I was thinking about this. The last 2 years before boldly dependent has been really interesting. We've always had a theme for the year. Maybe we've spoken about it, or maybe we haven't spoken about it. But the last 2 years, the first one we got really honest about having a theme for the year was year of formation, which was 2021. We did that. And then last year was abundantly more. And I think both of those really fueled this theme for this year of boldly dependent, because we took a year of formation, and we believe that formation is happening still. It's not just one year.
They're building on each other.
They're building on each other. And it's really got us to this moment of, you know what? We are going to be boldly dependent on God and strengthening ourselves in him, no matter what the grief, no matter what the pain. And for you, Ron, I think what's interesting is your heart has been attached to this theme for the last few months, getting ready for 2023. So share why boldly dependent. Like you said, they've been building on each other, and now it's released, like 2023. Here it is.
So one morning I was reading, just doing my personal reading, and I was reading through 1 Samuel 30. And for the sake of time, I mean, King David, well, he eventually becomes King David, he comes back to Ziklag, where his family and his army's people are, and they realize that they've been raided by the Amalekites, and everything's gone. And then I started thinking about and praying about, oh my goodness, like, it says in verse 6, he strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And I thought, man, I mean, he didn't attach himself to his fear. He didn't attach himself to what his army was angry at him about. They wanted to stone him. They wanted to kill him. And then he seeks God for the path for the future. And I thought, man, he's boldly dependent on God. And then it kind of came to me, and I started then talking to you and then talking to others about the boldly dependent aspect of what 2023 will look like, because the
Mm-hmm.
realization is we've worked hard at the Abundantly More 2022, and with our church consultant Chris Vacher, and we've recognized that heading into this next few years leading to 2027 is going to be very stretching. It's going to cause, some moments of doubt and wondering. The
Mm-hmm.
enemy's going to attack, so we're going to have to really be boldly dependent upon God, like David did. He
Mm-hmm.
strengthened himself in the Lord. And then, as I was getting the talk ready for this past Sunday, it was interesting because I was journaling about it, and then I realized his strength. His strength came as he soaked in the presence of God. So he
Mm.
allowed himself to be in the presence of God. He went to God first. He didn't go to God. He didn't go to other things like we do, right?
I love how you
And
said that on Sunday. You're like, like things happen in our lives. Like some
right,
of us pour another drink. We go to trying to numb ourselves with scrolling, watching funny things or things that are just
yeah,
mind numbing. Or even love how you said the cannabis store, right?
yeah,
Like I don't know if that was in your script or in the moment, but it was just like it's a reality that so many of us actually do. We try
right,
to just numb. We try to just turn off our mind of like I'm not dealing with this right now, but
right.
we still attach ourselves to what's happening to
Yes,
us.
yeah. And so he didn't attach himself, so he soaked in God's presence. And then I believe that he secured himself in God's power,
Mhm. Yeah.
because I believe that there's a piece of it where you have to know where the power comes from, and your identity is found in Christ and that power that's available to us. And
Mhm.
then I believe that he sought God's path, and that's where you saw that
Mhm.
verse where he said, like, do I pursue and go after and retrieve my people,
Mhm.
my family, my kids, my wives, and stuff? And there was a bold dependence on God for that. And I think the one line I think that came into the talk, and I don't believe it was in the script, was if we go on our own strength, it'll only be a reflection of us.
Mm.
But if we go in God's strength, it'll be a reflection of his glory.
Mhm.
And that for me, like, I know this sounds weird, but there's moments in talks where I'm super excited after it happens. Like, even for me, I'm sitting in that moment saying those things, and it's like you realize I'm not smart
Yeah.
enough to say this, and it's
Yeah.
obviously God in the moment. And I couldn't wait for that moment to happen in the talk that happened online this past Sunday, because
Mhm.
even for myself, it was an aha moment. Like, if we go in our own strength, it's only going to be a reflection of us, and that'll be in
Mhm.
vain.
Mhm. And that
And
doesn't Moses talks about that in Exodus. Like we'll only go where your spirit leads us. Like we
uh
want is that
yeah,
Moses?
yeah, oh yeah, it's Moses.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna go there when you said that, but you said
Exodus
it
33, God, unless you
33,
go
I'm pretty
with
sure.
us, we're not going. I think that's where it is.
But it's that
But
idea of going and attaching ourselves to him and he would get the glory, he'll get the honor, he will be the one
mhm,
that gets recognized, not on our own strength.
right,
Like, cause so
right,
often, like you kind of hinted at, like we want to take on that. Look at what I kind of did, and this
right,
year for us is we're going to be boldly dependent on the Lord for the strength, for the vision, for the faith,
yeah, yeah,
for everything in this year. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this year. And I want to ask you, you use two P words, and pastors always do this. They break them down into.
yeah. It's just
You
we
said
take great joy in it, and it's like,
you said power and presence
yeah, and path.
and path. Yeah, you actually use three. Yeah,
I did.
and
So
it's
I have it
interesting.
written here in front of me. Soaked in
Yeah, go
God's
for it.
presence, secured himself in God's power, and sought God's path.
Open those up.
Well, yeah, when I was journaling in those, when we say he drew strength from the Lord his God, what does that mean? Right? We don't know
Mhm.
what does that look like. So for me, it was okay. We know the Psalms. A lot of the Psalms are written by David,
Mhm.
and so he has a lot of Psalms about soaking in God's presence, about
Mhm.
running to God, and then securing himself in God's power, recognizing that the uncertainty of what he was facing, he couldn't do on his own. And then also the path, like legit, I think it's verse 8. After you soak in God's presence, you secure yourself in God's power, then you can seek him for the path.
Mm.
And bold dependence on God in that moment is what will help reveal that as you
Mhm.
move forward.
And how often do we try to go the opposite way? We try to go for the path before the presence and the power.
Right.
Our human nature just
You know,
desires a path.
yeah, you and I are reading a book on prayer right now.
Mhm.
The name is
Pray like monks, live like fools.
right. And it's interesting. He talks about prayer is more about the presence of God than it
Mhm.
is about the outcome that we want God,
Mhm.
that we were praying about, right?
Mhm.
So if we primarily go to prayer for the outcome, then we're going to be disappointed. But
Mhm.
if we come to prayer through more through the aspect of God's presence, like I'm in God's presence and I
Yeah.
get to sit in that moment and I get to listen and I get to
Mhm.
speak, the outcome will take care of itself. It's not that we don't seek God for things and go to Him for things in our lives. I mean, we do
Mhm.
that. I mean, we do that all the time as a church. We do that as individuals,
Mhm.
but I think that that David demonstrates that for us and gives us that example.
Yeah. So thinking about, okay, we've had our first gathering of the year, which was all online, which was crazy. And we,
Yeah.
we saw Instagram stories of people having people over and pictures being sent, like people like 15, 20, like 12 people in a room, six
I
people in a
know.
room. It's just amazing, right? To see the community that we've seen Vital Point grow in, and it's out in the world now. It's public. This year is going to be a year of being boldly dependent on who God is.
By
What
the
would
way,
you
I got to tell you, I was nervous.
or yeah.
I'm nervous about this boldly dependent because
Mhm.
it's going to stretch us. And I was nervous
Mhm.
because I've been living with this for 2 months,
That's true. Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
presented it originally to the board and to the staff in
Mhm.
early December. So I've been living with this now that it's out. I was almost sitting with in that moment watching the
Watching
talk,
yourself.
watching myself, and my heart was pounding. But
Yeah.
go ahead, you were going to say something else.
What would you like, just a few sentences,
Mm-hmm.
a word of encouragement to someone that is listening to this and being like, okay, I love this, but I just don't know. Like just give a word of
Uh,
encouragement, like to what someone needs to hear about this year. You've been sitting with it for a few months, you've unrolled it a little bit. Now it's out in the public. How does someone attach themselves to this year of watching God move and them being boldly dependent on Him?
yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I wish there was a pill for it.
What have you done? This is interesting. What
Okay.
have you done the last 2 months to get ready for this? That someone now is going to say, you know what, I'm going to trust the voice that Ron has, that God has given him. And obviously, this theme for this year is huge.
Okay. Yeah. I would say I have been examining my own life
Mm,
and making sure that I am removing the things that I go to for like I mean when things are going not great in my life and
mm,
some struggles are present. I have things that I might go to, and so I've been examining all those things
wow.
so that I can truly say that as the pastor of Vital Point Church, I am leading from a place of boldly dependent on God. It's terrifying because we love to be in control as
Hmm.
individuals. We don't want to be dependent upon anybody
Yeah.
else, and so for me, it's breaking that down. So individuals, it's going to be a journey and a
Hmm.
process this year of breaking down those things that they're dependent upon in their life,
Hmm.
their success, their bank accounts, their homes, their renos, their friendship circles, their social media. You're gonna have to break all that down and say, have I put these things in the place of God and my walk with Jesus? And I think that that's going to be a journey for individuals in our church because I believe that as we go through this year, especially if we go through this vision series, bold series, and then into practicing the way of Jesus, into an Easter series, and then the Sermon on the Mount series, leading us into summer. It's going to cause us to
Hmm.
really, really examine our lives this year. And some are going to be stretched beyond their comfort zone. And I believe some will repurpose their lives for the kingdom purposes in their workplace, and their families. Some may even walk away from their jobs and jump on board for the future of what's happening in our church. And that's boldly dependent on God, like walking away from things that was their security, knowing that God is prompting them to be a site leader of one of our sites, or come on staff in a children's area and youth area, or music and arts, or whatever. And I mean, we're seeking God. I mean, we'll have 20, 25 staff someday. And so that will come a lot from within. And so God's going to cause individuals' lives are going to change this year.
I love
and
that.
We're going to hear those stories.
It's huge. I love how you said, examine your life. What do I usually go to?
Yeah.
Am I putting places of this world in the place of God? And how do we stretch that open and say, no, I'm going to God first, and he will give me the strength, like David did in
that's
1
what
Samuel.
Yeah, David, exactly. David did that.
Chapter 30, verse 6.
Yeah, chapter 30, verse 6. So 1 Samuel 30, verse 6.
Yeah.
And did you want to tell people what's coming?
What's coming?
You know what's coming.
You caught. Oh, new merch. Yeah.
New swag.
Yeah. We have ordered
with boldly
merch.
dependent on it.
Yeah, boldly dependent merch dropping very soon. The guy is reaching out this week of the time frame for January that it's going to be released, and we can start selling it.
And you got VPC merch coming.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
About time, buddy. What have you been
I know.
slacking?
But you're bad. I love it. So good. Well, hey, thanks so much for listening to the Vitalmoments podcast. Brand new year, 2023, and we're going to be boldly dependent on God and what he does for his strength, faith, vision, values of who we are as a church. And it's just amazing. And hey, new Connect groups launch in February. Brand new Connect groups across all 3 sites, which we're really excited about. So, yeah.
And if you have questions about these things, remember we talked about this last year.
Yeah.
If you have questions about the topics and the messages, send them in.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to start reaching out to people in our Connect groups and see if they have some questions, so we can have some live, in the moment.
This was prompted by a VPC member.
Yeah, it's amazing.
She brought it to me and said, why don't we answer some questions? So if you got questions.
We got to go. We've taken way too much time.
Sorry, guys.
But it's beautiful time. Have a good one, everyone. Peace out.